So, good morning, everybody. I'm Kim Anthony, and I have the privilege of serving as the Vice President of the Black Business Association. And I opened this phenomenal workshop in the stead of our fearless, phenomenal, fabulous leader, Sarah Harris, who's the president of the Black Business Association. And this is just one of the many, many reasons why those of you who are members of the Black Business Association are being empowered to be successful. And those who have not become a member, you definitely want to join us. Because not only is there access to capital, access to procurement opportunities, consulting, being business ready. Under Sarah Harris's leadership, she is making sure that our businesses are at the table at the beginning when opportunities are being presented. And this website workshop webinar is of no exception. And it's part of the BBA's, the Black Business Association's Business Ready program. And today we're going to be participating in a workshop presented with the Economic Opportunity Grant Program with the Department of Economic Opportunity of Los Angeles. And today we're going to learn about LA County's Economic Opportunity Grant Program that will award $54 million across 6,800 grants for micro businesses, small businesses, and nonprofits. So without further ado, I'd like to bring forward, I believe I'm throwing to Kevin.
Good morning. Actually, my colleague Danny Kelleher is going to open, and then we'll be moving forward with several presenters.
Ladies and gentlemen, Danny Kelleher.
All right, thank you so much. And sorry, I was trying to unmute. Can you hear me? I was having a little bit of technical difficulties getting in. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So hi, my name is Danny Kelleher. I'm Assistant Director over Economic Development for the Department of Economic Opportunity. And we're here to talk to you about, as was just mentioned, our Economic Opportunity Grants Program. And I'm sorry, Kevin, are you going to be sharing the PowerPoint? Is there a PowerPoint we're sharing?
Lauren from SBDC will be sharing it.
Oh, okay, got it. Well, as that pulls up, so yeah, we're gonna, oh, here it comes. All right, perfect. So we'll be talking about this exciting program. So this is a program that basically it's very exciting. As was mentioned, it's $54 million in grants that are going out to micro businesses and small businesses and certain small nonprofits as well. And there is with the focus on businesses that were impacted by the pandemic, by COVID. So this is money to go out to provide relief to some of these businesses. Do you want to go to the next slide, Lauren? Okay, perfect. So there's kind of a bit of an overview there. You can see the 54 million. So it's a lot of grants, 6,800 grants. And now it's combining a few different programs. One of them is actually a state program. You can see it there, California Micro Businesses COVID-19 Relief Grant. So that one is really focused on micro businesses, some of the smallest businesses, which are 50,000 or under in revenue. Those are a little bit smaller grants compared to some of the other ones. It's a $2,500 grant. And that's one piece that we're rolling out right now. This project has kind of two phases. Both of them are open right now. So this one actually opened up in January, and it continues to be open and is accepting applications through May 5th. So definitely anybody eligible for this. We'll go over some of the eligibility requirements in more detail later on in this presentation. But definitely we want to get everybody applying who could possibly be eligible for those micro business grants. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is a program, is a combination of different grants that is funded by the American Rescue Plan Act. And there's a lot of different grants there. There are micro businesses are also eligible for those. So potentially, if micro business doesn't get in on the state grant, you can come in on the ARPA grant as well. And then it opens up more broadly to small businesses as well as some certain nonprofits, and a combination of grants there. But it's just one portal you can go to and then apply for what you are eligible for. And as I said, we'll go through some of the criteria in a little bit, and then some help on how you can apply and what it takes. I will say that there's a lot that kind of goes into the application, but we have a lot of support. We have SBDC is here and Lendistry to kind of talk through a little bit what it takes, but we have a lot of technical assistance and support and webinars and information out there to kind of help people get in and apply, because there is a lot that goes into the application, but there's a lot of support for it as well. So the second second phase, which is all the ARPA grants, which opens it up, those grants are a little bit bigger. They range from 15,000 up to 25,000, depending on business size and revenue. And those opened up later on in February, and those are continuing. We're continuing to take applications at the very least to the end of May, and there could be future opportunities there as well. But for now, we're going through the end of May on that. So it's a very exciting opportunity. We're trying to get this money out. Money is starting to go out the door, but of course, we're still taking a lot of applications and want to get it out to all eligible businesses. We're really focusing on those areas and businesses that were the hardest hit and have been the most, historically underrepresented, disadvantaged, and then those that were, impacted the most by COVID. So that's really the idea here. So it's exciting to kind of get this out there, and we're happy to kind of bring this to you and make sure that you know about it and how you can go about applying and bringing this out to other businesses that could potentially be eligible. So just wanted to give that broad overview. I'm going to turn it over to my team that can provide a lot more specifics. We'll be around for questions are okay as we go through, and then there'll be time for questions at the end too. So thank you all for having us. Let me turn it over to Kevin Anderson, who's going to talk through some more specifics.
Thank you so much, Danny. And we can go to the next slide. Okay, and so I'm going to just do an overview of the eligibility criteria for the program. I'm going to hit kind of the major criteria to make sure you walk away with that key information, and then we do have some more detailed information on the website. If you could go to the next slide. Okay, so as Danny mentioned, we have two phases to this program. I'm going to start with talking about phase one, targeting micro businesses. And you can see the dates where the phase one applications are open from the end of January through May 5th. These are grants of $2,500 for micro businesses with less than 50K in revenue in the 2019 taxable year. They had to have been in business in 2019. It's open to micro businesses throughout the county of Los Angeles, including the city of LA. Some of the other key criteria include having 5 or less employees, and you can't have already received a prior California Small Business COVID-19 relief grant. We're really trying to get more applicants in this category. So if any of you feel you meet this criteria, or micro businesses out there that could meet this criteria, we're really trying to spread the word, try to get more applicants, and we want to give away these funds. So just want to put in a kind of a note there to please apply, especially for this funding category. We're much less oversubscribed in this category, and so really trying to spread the word and get as many applicants here as possible. Then let me jump to phase two, which under phase two we are continuing to take applications from micro businesses, but expanded to small businesses and nonprofits. And you can see the application dates here for that. Also, some of the other key criteria for micro businesses under this phase, we're doing grants of $15,000 with under $100,000 in revenue. You can see it's the years, instead of just being 2019, go up to 2020 and 2021. But for this funding, it's not City of Los Angeles. It's open to the rest of the county, but not within the City of Los Angeles. And then similar criteria for small businesses, grants of 20,000. The annual revenue amount there goes from 100,000 to 2 million. And same criteria around the years of operation being up to 2021. City of Los Angeles also excluded, and similarly must have started prior to December 2021. And then you see the nonprofit criteria pretty much the same as the micro business and small business criteria. You can see the revenue amounts and the grant amounts here. For the nonprofit category, these funds are open to the City of Los Angeles. Excuse me. So I wanted to highlight that as a key difference for the nonprofit funding. Next slide. Wanted to just mention, won't go through all this in detail, but this slide and the next slide, there are just some types of business entities that they're not eligible for phase 1 or phase 2. And you can see some of those, businesses, obviously businesses without a physical presence in the state, businesses primarily engaged in political or lobbying activities, several others, obviously businesses engaged in anything that's unlawful, and you can see a few others mentioned here. These are specific to phase 1. Let's go to the next slide. And then here's some criteria for phase 2 that are ineligible. Similarly, obviously you have to be within the County of Los Angeles. It's a county program. And you can see some other criteria here. Obviously, we're targeting small businesses. So, publicly traded companies, corporate franchises, larger businesses are, not eligible. And you can see a few other types of business entity that are not eligible for the program listed here. And we'll obviously be sending these slides so that they can be shared. And so you'll have this information. This information is also available at our website, grants.lacounty.gov. And we'll be putting that website on this slide deck. You'll see it on a lot of the upcoming slides. Next slide. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Tina, with Lendistry. We've partnered with Lendistry to create the application portal, and they're going to be talking about how you complete and submit an application and some of the required documents. Tina?
I'm here. Thanks, Kevin. Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. I'm coming in from my phone. I'm out of office today, kind of working remote. But thank you guys so much for having Lendistry to participate today. As Kevin said, we really want to promote the program and get more applicants in, especially for phase 1. I am Tina Pelzer from Lendistry. Lendistry is the company that is administering the grant. So every time a person puts an application in, they go through Lendistry. We can go to the next slide. As Kevin stated just a few minutes ago, the website is located at the top of this page here. It's grants.lacounty.gov. Once they land into that website, there's a host of information that'll be there about the programs, the breakdown of what was previously shown, as well as eligibility criteria and how to get into the application. The one thing that we really, really want people to do when they get into the site is we really want them to go to the space where it says prepare to apply. Or get help to apply, to understand the criteria, to see which program which one fits their business. The other part that you see the arrow on the screen here points to the language. When you get into the site, you can change the site to fit the language need that you have. We can go to the next slide. All right, once they click the apply now button, remember after they've gone in to kind of say, hey, which one fits my business, they will land into the Lendistry portal. And what that means is they land into a space where they're now going to register and log into the portal. Our portal will house all of the applications for the programs described. So it'll house the phase 1 application. It will house the phase 2 application, including the nonprofit application, micro and small business. So an applicant only needs to do this part here, this screen, one time in order to enter in and be able to select which program they need to apply for. They can also, if they qualify for phase 1 and phase 2, they only need to log in once because they can apply for both of those applications within this portal. What they'll see is they'll see where they enter their name, they'll enter their email address, their password, and their phone number. It will need to be a cell phone because it's going to send them a text message to verify the phone number. And then they will need to click agree in order to get into the portal. Now, the arrow at the bottom, let's say the person got confused and they said, hey, did I log in already before? If they remember it, they can always go to the bottom and say, hey, click into the existing account. That means that they've signed in at least one time and they don't need to do it again. All right, next slide. All right, in the program, along with completing the application, there are some required documents for each application. For the phase 1, the micro business application, that's for the businesses that are 50K and under. They will need the following items. So they're going to need an applicant certification of identity. So the applicant certification is going to be a form that they will only find in the portal. They can find it when they get into the portal. They'll scroll down. It'll say applicant certification, and it'll fall under whichever program that they are looking to apply for. They can also find the applicant certification at the end of the application when it's time for them to upload documents. The important thing about that document is letting applicants know they can only find it within the portal, and they need to download it before they fill it out and then submit it. All right. They don't want to fill it out and then download it. It won't save the information. The other documents that they're going to need, and this is for phase 1 and phase 2 programs, they're going to need their signed and unaltered tax documents, and that will be their actual filed taxes for their federal returns. For phase 1, it's the 2019 tax return, and we do need the full document. People ask questions, do I put in my Schedule C if I have a partnership or if I filed married? We need the full document. We do not weigh any other financials against the qualifications other than the business that you're qualifying for. So if you have a Schedule C along with other things, we're only going to look at what the Schedule C is for that business, but you do need to upload the complete filed and returned unaltered tax returns. They also need to have their business registered. So their business will need to be registered as it is supposed to be registered, depending on the city that you're in. Some cities only require a permit. Some will require the articles of Inc., certificate of organization. They can do the fictitious name. They can have a professional license or a government issued business license. Now, if they do have a business license that's expired, we will accept the renewal documents as long as they can show us that they have paid for the license to be updated. They also need their government issued ID. For these programs, phase 1 and phase 2, we will accept the driver's license, the state ID or a foreign ID, including their matricular card, and a foreign or US passport. What's very important about the identification is that they need to have it on hand and ready at the time of applying. There's a process called persona that it will take the applicant through where they will need to upload a copy of their application in real time, and they will also need to verify their face by using a scanner. So they need a device with a camera on it because it will ask them to look at their face to match their identity in real time with the uploaded identification that they have submitted. And then lastly, we will need valid bank account. So it can be a personal or a business account. Business is always preferred, but it can definitely be the personal account. It needs to be a valid bank account. How we check that is we use a system called Plaid. Plaid is a really safe and secure system. It's used by Visa. It's a system used nationally and internationally. And what it does is it matches the person and the business with the bank account. And it also helps us to mitigate fraud from people that have not been able, people that are not able to get government funds. As long as they don't show up with their bank account or their ID in any of those hot lists for the government, then we're able to get them through this required document process. But with Plaid, there is some people are unfamiliar and it feels a little scary to put in your banking and your username and your login. We don't ever see any of that information. The only thing we see for your banking is 60 to 90 days of your bank history. So it would be like 2 to 3 months of your bank statements. If they're uncomfortable, they're welcome to call the call center, and the call center will walk them through an alternate process. But the number one process is going through Plaid. We can go to the next slide. All right, for phase 2, most of the same documents, except for this program, they can upload one of the 3 tax returns. They don't have to upload all 3. It can be the year that they choose. And we advise people to look at the requirements and the available grant sizes and compare it to the year they want to use for their taxes. But they can do 2019, 2020, or 2021 completed tax return. Again, they need to have their business licensing, and permits are eligible. Like, you can submit your permit. For food establishments for phase 2, they will need to have a public health department grade of C, right? The minimum grade is of C. And that also qualifies through the City of Long Beach inspection summary report. So we will match it with public records for that restaurant or food establishment to make sure that their score and their grade is a level C. The other thing would be the bank account, just like phase 1. If you do call in and say, hey, I don't want to do Plaid, and they just enter their banking information, they will need to also submit 2 months of the most current bank statements. If it's a new bank account holder, they will need to submit a letter from the bank validating the account. All right, so don't worry, new bank account holders, we will accept the bank letter. And then again, the government issued ID and one of the entity documents listed below. If they're a partner, they also will need to put in their partnership agreement and a signed applicant certification form. Next slide. For nonprofits, all of the same information that would go in for the small business and the micro business for phase 2. In addition to those documents, they will need to submit their IRS designation letter of their nonprofit tax filing. So 501c3, C4, C6, and C19. They will, along with all the other requirements, they will also need to submit that letter from the IRS determining their nonprofit status. That is the only additional item for nonprofits. We can go to the next slide. All right, the review process. So once a person has submitted their application, they will see as soon as they click submit, they'll see if they're able to move on to validation and or if they have been declined. They will get an email confirmation of their eligibility. So if they are declined, let's say they fat fingered something on there, or they entered something that they didn't mean to enter and it declined them. One of the things that everyone needs to know and be aware of is in the guidelines on the website. They need to call us, the call center, that would be the tech support call center, within 5 business days in order to ask for a re-review. We know people make mistakes and we want them to afford the opportunity to be able to come back and get a re-review. They need to do it within 5 business days, but they will know why they were ineligible by email. They also will get an email if they have successfully submitted and they're ready to go through validation. It will let them know they are successfully submitted. And every step throughout the process, the applicant will see an email, and they'll also see their status move in the portal when they log in. In some instances, we may call the applicant just to confirm certain things. That doesn't happen often, but if there is something that we need to further validate, we may call the applicant. And then once the application is fully validated, it's cleared all the checks and balances, we will let the applicant know that they are approved and or declined for the funding. If they are approved, they will receive a W-9 and a DocuSign to sign. That's the clear determination, hey, you're approved, you're getting ready to get your grant funds really soon. Email notifications for everything, including denials, will be sent to the applicant. One note here, and I think we forgot to mention, when people get their email their email back, and when they log into the portal, there's a thing called the application ID. That is going to be their source for looking at that application. So every email that goes to the applicant has the app ID on it, and the app ID is located in the portal every time they log in. That's going to be the number they use to track the progress of their application. Next slide. All right, finally, in the review process, they can always log into the portal. Remember, early on, we talked about logging in. Once they get through that first initial portal entry space, they'll be able to log in, and at any time of the day, anytime while the program is open, to see what the status of their application is. It'll say the app ID, the name of the business, and right below, it'll give the status of the application. How they sign into the portal would be their username, which is their email address, and the password that they set up. If they need help with it, they can always call the tech support call center to get into the application portal. When will the applicant receive funding? So it varies. It all depends on how they are validated and if they have the required documents and information. But once they receive their W-9 and DocuSign, they should receive funding within 30 days. More than likely, it's 7 to 14 days, but within 30 days of signing the DocuSign. All right. And it will be direct deposit into the bank account that they submitted with their application. And I think, was that the last one for me, Kevin? Yep, there we go. I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, or our wonderful SBDC partners who have been super helpful with helping applicants along the way. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Tina. And so, yes, we're turning it over now to Lauren from SBDC, who's going to talk about application assistance and outreach that's available. We've been partnering with all of the SBDCs throughout the county to help spread the word about this program, do outreach in communities, and then also if folks need help with their applications and have questions or challenges, we have application assisters with SBDC who can help you actually apply. And so Lauren's going to talk through some of this. Lauren?
Thanks so much, Kevin. Excuse me, everyone. I'm sorry. For some reason, my technology is on the fritz and my camera isn't showing, but I'm excited to be with you all today and to share this program. I am with the SBDC, or the Small Business Development Center. And just really quickly, we're at no cost to local small businesses, no cost to you because your tax dollars have already taken care of our fees. We offer everything from one-on-one trainings as well as webinars and other resources. So we're excited to be a part of this program. Let's dive in. So when it comes to the application assistance, there are actually 4 levels, and you can see those on the screen in front of you. You'll see that level 1 are the online and live webinars. And so those webinars are very similar to what you've joined today. We walk you through the process. We walk you through the website with helpful resources, videos included, as well as the contact phone numbers. And then we go on to the application itself. Level 2, it's good, like I said, it's the Application Assistance Center. And so you're able to go and dial this 833-364-7268 phone number, and you can speak directly with an SBDC business advisor, and we'll answer whatever question you may have as it relates to the application. Typically, you call this phone number before you actually start the application process. And then level 3, it's the one-on-one virtual or in-person sessions. And so again, it's much like the webinar you've joined today. We also have that are more formal. We also have informal webinars, and we call them our office hours. And that's where you can just jump in, and let's say you have 2 or 3 questions, you can ask your questions, and then you can hop off when you're finished, when you have the information you need. And then finally, it also speaks to in-person sessions. And so we have live events. We actually have an event at the Compton Farmers Market on the 1st from 11 to 3 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken, but you can actually come out, hear a presentation, and then we'll have people on site walking you through the application process. So be sure to bring your documents. And then finally, it's that level 4, the in-person local community engagement events. It's exactly what I just explained. We have one on the 1st and we have several more. I'll be sure to actually add that link to the site so that you can see our calendar of helpful events. If I continue, we are back to the website. So Tina kind of hit on this earlier when she took you through the application process. You're going to jump onto this website. The URL is in the chat and you'll see it on every single screen, I'm sure. But it's at grants.lacounty.gov. If you click the button that says prepare to apply, you'll see a screen very similar to what's on this in front of you, excuse me. If you look at this first arrow, it's the phone support. So that first 833 phone number, that is going to give you support as it relates to the application before you actually started. So any questions related to eligibility, if whether or not you qualify, you're going to want to call that phone number. Now, if you've already started the application and you're starting to run into some difficulties with the technology, be sure to call this 866 phone number. So it's that 866-238-0516. That is where you can get assistance with any kind of technological difficulties. You'll also see in the note, it says make changes after submission within 5 days. So if you submit your application and you see that there is any kind of changes that need to be made to it, you have to be sure you do so within 5 days of that submission. Here's another resource. If you continue scrolling on that same prepare to apply tab, you'll run into these videos. And so these are actual videos where we go through city business licenses. People have questions as it relates to articles of organizations. We have them both in English and Spanish for those of you who have questions. I also mentioned that calendar of events. If you looked on the screen and it's that section to the right, that's our calendar of events. You'll see that we have sessions in both English and Spanish. We have other languages as well. And we have those office hours as well as actually our friends at Lindustry actually put on a application presentation. You'll see those on Wednesdays. Excuse me. The office hours are every single day. We have the sessions for nonprofits on Mondays at 9 o'clock. They're in English. At 1:30, they're in Spanish. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have informational webinars, much like the one you've joined today. And if you need it in Spanish, we have them on Mondays and Wednesdays. Here's just some information as it relates to what we've done thus far. Our call center, so far, we've outbound, it's over 33,000 phone calls. Inbound, about 5,500. The webinars, I'm telling you, we're having them just about every single day. To date, we've had over 2,700 attendees, which has been pretty awesome. Those office hours, they're a little bit lower numbers, but again, this is a time for you to just hop on, ask your questions, and then hop right off. For our canvassing events, we've got 53 already completed, and we have 51 that are currently scheduled, one being that event that I mentioned on April 1st. Website hits have been over 300,000. With over 86,000 clicks. Our newsletters, we've reached about 68, almost 70,000 people. Our open rate's at 20%, so we know people are really eating up this information. And then finally, for our community partners, we look to reach our local, we're partnering with organizations to be sure that we're reaching those areas most affected by COVID. And then here's just our kind of our route to addressing this issue. And so we start with our outreach. So our street teams, we literally have people or days where we have our team on the streets, walking through neighborhoods, visiting businesses that have been hit hard by COVID. We then partner with local organizations who are already kind of doing that sort of work. We partner with them, utilizing their resources as well as ours to be sure, again, that we're reaching the correct audiences. And then we have we go live with the applicant. So we're speaking one-on-one with you all to make sure that we're addressing your needs and answering any kind of questions you might have, doing the same thing as when it comes to those, the website. We have tons of information on those pages. Be sure to dive in. Application assistance, the one-on-one business advising, and then finally applying through the portal. And that's it for me. I'm going to hand it back over to Kevin. But again, I will put our website into the chat so that you guys can reach out to us. We're here now. We're here forever. So should you have any kind of questions or needs during your entrepreneurial journey, please be sure to get in contact with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And we can go to the next slide. We just had one or two final slides here to round out our presentation. Just wanted to say that, we urge you to apply. We'd urge you to spread the news about this program. We want to reach as many micro businesses, small businesses, and nonprofits as we can. And as I mentioned earlier, we're especially trying to reach those smallest micro businesses of under 50,000 in revenue. We've got a social media toolkit. If you want to share information about the program to your networks, you can see one of the graphics right there on the screen. We had a little press conference when we launched the program, and that picture you see there are the first 3 micro businesses that were awarded grants under the program. And we've got other graphics in the toolkit as well. But feel free to use those and spread the word and post about it if you think you have contacts and networks that might be interested. And then wanted to just put those phone numbers in here again. As was mentioned, if you're working on an application or someone who's starting an application and they've got questions, or they don't know, how to get their documents together, or they have questions about eligibility, they can call the Application Assistance Center number, the 833 number. As Lauren mentioned, that's staffed by SBDC counselors and advisors who can help you and provide assistance. And then also, as was mentioned, if you have tech support issues, you trying to upload something and it gets stuck, or you have some other tech concern or glitch while you're working, we have a phone number dedicated just to those tech issues that you can call there, and that's staffed by our colleagues at Lendistry. So next slide, which I think is the last one. Yep, and this is just the last slide, and just putting those numbers and the website there one more time. And thanks everyone for your time. That's the end of our presentation. We'll see if there's any questions before we hop off.
Great job, guys. Thank you. Short, to the point, outstanding.
Thank you so much, sir.
You guys said you were going to send out the slides from this presentation?
We will absolutely send the slides, and these are resources for you to have. So we'll be sending those so that they can get distributed.
Now, just to let you know, I was cleaning out my junk email. I know you know that junk email, and it was 1-800-UNITE-US. That's how I just happened to find this 15 minutes, about 10 minutes before you started. So at least we know that one works. And then I just wanted to ask before we go, how often do you guys hold these live webinars, you guys specifically?
So I'll let Lauren answer, but I think there's some sort of live either webinar or office hours virtually every day. But Lauren, can you answer that a little more specifically?
Sure, I'm happy to. So as Kevin mentioned, so if you go on Mondays, we have our nonprofit specific webinars. Those are at 9 and in English, and then 1:30 in Spanish. but we also have office hours at 5 o'clock, and those are every single day. On Mondays and Wednesdays, we have our webinars at noon in Spanish. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon, they are in English. But as Kevin mentioned, we have something every single day. I'll go ahead and pop that link to the website, though, so that you can see the calendar of events.
Okay, and then I just thought of one final question, and thank you for being patient. I hope I'm not cutting off other people. I apologize for that. Startups. I am starting up. Well, my nonprofit's been around 10 years. That's me. But with respect to commercial sole proprietors or closely held companies and nonprofits, what is the honest opinion on how they fit if they're trying to get startup funding or whatever? I'm going to assume startup funding because people are still coming out of COVID. But can you just give me a hint as to how much more difficult it means? Because I know a lot of banks don't understand nonprofits, nor do a lot of our local officials understand that nonprofits do file tax returns every year. And although their tax status is different, it's still a business. It's a corporation, it's a business entity. So can you just give me a quick input, anybody, on maybe if you have any information on startup capital in general and how nonprofits are able to qualify? That was the only thing I could think of. And thanks a lot, guys.
I'll start, and please, if others want to jump in and add to my answer, but so in the funds available through this program, the grants that we're giving out, we're not so much looking at startup versus not startup. It's really just, is it meeting the criteria that we have for the program? For those micro business funds, which come from the state, it's set to, you have to have been in existence in 2019. And that's a state requirement. There's nothing we can do to change that. So for those particular funds, it has to be, you had to have been in existence in 2019. And so that would obviously be a barrier for a recent startup. Through the phase 2, which is funded through American Rescue Plan, we have more flexibility there. And so that's why those funds are available to businesses and small businesses and nonprofits that existed up there, that were formed as more recently in 2021. So you could have been around in 2019, 2020, or 2021. If you are really recent and just formed in 2022, it would not be eligible for the funds through this program. So that's kind of, I guess, just a high level. But others, if anyone else wants to jump in, and I think you might have even been asking about other types of funding that folks might know about separate from this. So I'll stop there and see if any of the other presenters have anything to add or share around that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kevin. This is Danny Kelleher. So yeah, as he said, it's kind of, if they're really new, then that probably won't work for these grants. But we do have at our Department of Economic Opportunity, we have an Office of Small Business that does provide a lot of technical support and can help trying to get access to capital. And I can provide some contact information there where that's something that you can definitely point any kind of startups to kind of get some help and access information. Totally outside the Economic Opportunity Grant Program, but still there's certainly some potential available resources to help startups get going.
Thanks a lot again, guys. I look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thank you, sir.
So just have a follow-up question to Danny. How do we get in touch with you to get that information that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so, well, I think you might have my email. I'll put it in the chat too, so you can certainly email me directly. That's just the easiest way for now. I'll be honest that we're still kind of building out a website and some resources. So I'll put some contact information in the chat too. If I can, I'll be honest, I've been having trouble with the Zoom for some reason. It keeps kicking me out. So, but at least you got my email. I'll put my email in right now so that if it kicks me out again and you don't hear from me, you can certainly reach out to me just via email.
And what Danny was just saying reminded me, we didn't say the department that we're part of, the Department of Economic Opportunity that's created this program, we just formed in last July. So we've been around less than a year. We're new. As you can see, we're moving fast. We've gotten out this big grant program within the first 6 months or so of forming this new department. But as Danny was just saying, we're still forming and staffing up and putting in place all of our programs and services. So there's that occurring as well.
Wonderful. Ardina Brooks has her hand up.
Thank you, Kim. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to know, I've already started phase 2 and I had a few questions. Is that something I can ask today, or should I call the numbers that you're telling us to call?
I think if it's real specific to your case and your application, it might be good for us to work with you offline. But if you have any sort of general questions that, you know, others might have or might benefit everyone hearing, you know, feel free to ask those. But we're also happy to, you know, connect with you outside of the webinar and see what specific questions you have about your circumstances.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and ask this one. I am an LLC, and the articles of organization form that was stamped, I noticed that the address is incorrect, only by 1 digit. Is that going to be a problem?
Tina, are you still on? I would see if Tina could answer that question. Oh yeah, I see you.
I think Tina's reception is bad. I'll put it into the chat and see if she can't get an answer before we end today.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we finish?
I have a question. I would imagine that it would depend on the program, but once someone applies and provides all of their documentation, how long should they expect to be the waiting period to be? Is it weeks? Is it months?
So I think that I'll start, but it would be great, Tina, if you want to jump in on that as well. So right now we're most focused on phase 1. So if someone applies under phase 1, we're reviewing those applications and beginning to issue awards very soon for those funds. And for phase 2, which we opened more recently, we're really going to be focused on that once we complete all the thousands of applications under phase 1. So it'll be a little bit longer waiting period. We'll really be jumping into reviewing and approving those, I think, beginning in June. But I wanted to see, Tina, if you have any.
Kevin, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, sorry guys, I'm moving about. So for the first question for the applicant, please pop your email in the chat. And Kevin, if you can collect that, I want to just look at her application if she's already started it and get it assigned so that someone can see if the address with the 1 number being off is going to be an issue. So we can directly help you with that. As far as the timeline for the applications, phase 1, we have just begun to start funding actually this week. And it'll go throughout the next, I'm going to say 30 to 60 days for funding for that program. But for phase 2, as Kevin mentioned, we will not start processing that program until it has completely closed, which is after May 20th. So after all the applicants get in and the round closes, then we will start to process. And within about 2 to 3 weeks, you should see traction on your application, if not decisioning. And we'll go from there. In the meantime, make sure you have applied for the correct program that you intended to apply for that fits your business.
I have a virtual and an actual hand. I think I heard someone mention that if the business has been funded by a state program, they're ineligible. Can you reiterate that?
Yes, and that's a really important point. That's just for phase 1. That's just for the micro business grants under 50,000. You know, the simple way to put it is, in this economic opportunity grant program, we have pulled together lots of different funding sources to try to create one more seamless experience for those who are applying. So, but we on our end have state funds, different federal funds, each with different requirements and strings attached to them. So for the micro business grants that are under 50,000, there is a specific state requirement that you cannot have received a prior COVID small business relief grant. But that's only specific to phase one, the micro business under 50,000 in revenue.
And Kevin, let me add to that so that people aren't confused about which program it is. It's the CRG COVID Relief Grant Program. Some people are getting confused and they're selecting on their application that they have gotten that grant, and they may be confusing it with another city grant or another program. It's the grant that Lindustry, it's the one that if you've ever logged in with Lindustry before, it was the big, large grant that was for the whole state that was processed. So try to coach people through it if they're asking questions to make sure it's the grant that was processed through Lindustry for COVID-19 relief grant funds.
Okay, are there any other questions? Well, thank you so much, Kevin, Lauren, Dan, and Tina, for just bringing such a comprehensive set of information to us. And there are so many resources and connections that we could make to access these resources. So we thank you on behalf of the Black Business Association and Sarah Harris. Unless there's any other questions, we can conclude the meeting.
Thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to present and share this information with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're really happy to be here. So definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. And those of you who are not members of the Black Business Association, it's joining is easy. It's bbala.org. Once again, bbala.org. Have a great, prosperous, and successful rest of your day.